Welcome everyone to the Lyon Township Planning Commission meeting for Monday, April 13th, 2026. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, very good. Everyone stood. All right. Brian, if you would take roll tonight.
Treasurer Carconi, absent. Chuck?
Present.
Conflitti?
Here.
Mitkowski?
Here.
Pennington, we understand he's running behind. Radke?
Here.
Town.
Here.
Okay, very good.
Motion to excuse Commissioner Carcone.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, and then Ron will be here. He's just running late, so.
So, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes, but before I do, I was going over the minutes, and it's line number 128.
Okay.
And Susan commented that a member of the Planning Commission is from Walbridge. How many did he influence to proceed? So no one here on the Planning Commission works for Walbridge. That's my statement. And with that statement, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay.
I'll support that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay. That was for the March 9th, 2026
Yes.
minutes. Okay, very good. Approval of tonight's agenda.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion to move up old business or new business first and then old business at the end after the new business?
Okay. Everyone? Oh, thank you. Do we have a motion? Support? Support? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? All right, very good. All right, comments from the public. If anyone would like to come up, any comments? Again, this is, I see familiar faces, there's some new faces, but just so it's clear, these are comments, it's not a conversation, so we're taking comments, and we're trying to keep it at 3 minutes per person. If you'd like to give your name, you can. If you don't want to, that's your call.
Sorry, I didn't hear it. What'd you say?
3 minutes. If you'd like to give your name,
Yeah.
that's fine.
That's fine.
Okay.
Ditto from all the other meetings, first of all. In regards to your special land use, making amendments, I think you guys should make an amendment not to have a data center built within 5 miles of a school. And in regards to that, why are they removing dirt off the site when this has been postponed till after Labor Day? They got 50, 60 feet high piles of dirt they're scraping off. And other thing is, I'm sure everybody's been doing a lot of reading. A couple communities have been passing amendments to have certain size projects, or I don't know, 30, 40 million or over, they be put to a vote by the residents who live here. So nothing like this happens again. And like I said, ditto on everything else that's been going on the last couple months. Hope you guys reconsider all and not approve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kelly Sullivan. I live in New Hudson. I'd like to share some thoughts about how the planning and engineering services that the township contracts are being utilized. I would hope that any applicant coming before the Planning Commission has already considered zoning, planning, and engineering concerns related to their project. Additionally, they should obtain services of the appropriate professionals at their cost in assisting them to prepare the site plan and information shared with the Planning Commission about their proposed project. The role of the township's planning and engineering consultants should be to review the documents submitted by the applicant and determine if they meet township requirements. They prepare a response that is sent to the applicant and the Planning Commission. Not having reviewed many project proposals myself, I'm wondering how often our engineering consultant's first review has a list of 19 comments or concerns, then had an additional 18 comments or concerns 6 days later after the second review. That's what happened with the submission of Project Flex. The number of hours paid for by township residents to review each of these documents, do the necessary research, and reply a second time before it was even ever presented to the Planning Commission is ridiculous. The planning consultant's first site plan review for Project Flex was a very detailed 8-page document. Included in the documents were many notes for needed planned revisions and supplemental information from the applicant, needed from the applicant. The site plan was not recommended for approval. That document was shared with the Planning Commission and the applicant on September 2nd. Just a few days later, on September 8th, the planning consultant submitted a second site plan review. Surprisingly, the project then met the required plans for the Planning Commission to approve the site plan with only some facade and landscape changes. All that was resolved in less than 6 days. The September 8th memo was sent on the same day that the project was presented to the Planning Commission and was conditionally approved. On the surface, it appears that the applicant expected the planner and the engineer to pause every other project that they were focusing on to make sure that Project Flex had the go-ahead to present their project to the Planning Commission on September 8th. Township residents are providing the resources to make sure that that would happen. We should let developers take the time to submit proposals that don't need so many changes. Don't let their timelines dictate the township's due diligence to make decisions that are best for township residents. Don't have the township paid consultants do their work for them. Rushed decisions are rarely good ones. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Maria, and I own property that's affecting where this data center will be. There's a lot of testimonials on the internet from other states and communities warning people of what they are living with now as a result of the effects of these data centers and how it has negatively impacted their community. No one warned them, but they are warning us. I encourage you to go look at some of these and what they're living with. The developer has now submitted plans for final review with more details about the electricity transmission lines. And ITC will be placing 18 to 36 electric towers on a route which includes our property, backs up right to our property, in a residential neighborhood. This poses significant health threats when they are placed in residential neighborhoods and near schools. So I have this published document about high-powered transmission lines in residential neighborhoods, and I printed all of you a copy. In fact, I'll just give it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there's references.
Thank you.
So I'm not going to read this all, but I'm going to read you some highlights. The proximity of high-powered transmission lines in residential neighborhood poses
Maria,
significant.
could you tell us where you're at, where you're reading from, please?
Yeah.
Number?
I'm at the very top.
Okay.
Very top.
I thought you were just going to highlight.
Nope.
Thank you.
The proximity of high-powered transmission lines in residential neighborhood poses significant health risks due to chronic exposure to electromagnetic fields, which have been linked to biological disruptions ranging from the cellular dysfunction to increased cancer risk. Evidence suggests these EMFs interfere with human physiology in ways that conventional safety guidelines fail to account for, particularly given their reliance on outdated thermal effect models while ignoring non-thermal biological models. Below is detailed analysis of the documented dangers and mechanisms of harm. High voltage power lines emit low frequency EMFs, 50 to 60 hertz, which, though non-ionizing, disrupt the cellular processes through mechanisms like oxidative stress, DNA damage, mitochondrial dysfunction. Studies show prolonged exposure alters cell membrane permeability, interferes with calcium ion channels, and induces inflammation. Factors implicated in chronic diseases such as leukemia, neurological disorders, and cardiac arrhythmias. For instance, epidemiological research from Sweden found leukemia rates 3.7 times higher among individuals with combined residential and occupational EMF exposures. Neurological and cognitive impacts. The brain's sensitivity to EMFs are well documented. Pulsed EMFs, similar to those from power lines, disrupt your neuronal communication, potentially accelerating neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's. Biophoton research reveals that EMFs distort the ultra-weak electromagnetic signals used by neurons for coherent information transfer. Then there's cardiovascular risks. EMFs directly affect cardiac function by destabilizing heart rhythm. There's experiments have demonstrated massive disruptions in heart patterns. About cancer and immune suppression, the International Agency for Research in Cancer classifies low-frequency EMFs as possibly carcinogenic. Electrohypersensitivity. A subset of the population exhibits EHS, which is the electrohypersensitivity, with symptoms of headaches, insomnia, skin rashes, resolving upon EMF avoidance. Mitigation strategies. So to minimize these risks, yes.
Okay, you're reading it all. I figured you'd just read highlights.
I am reading highlights.
Well,
I'm reading.
like
See, my page is. I'm reading my highlights.
Okay,
Oh.
but I need you.
We have 3-minute time limit
Yeah.
that has
We've got
Well-
copies of
been
it.
done.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
I have. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm going to have
sure.
someone
You
continue
bet.
where I left off.
Maria, one question. Where did the document come from? Where was the document from?
You have it right there. See, the references are right there on the back. They're referenced, so I started here.
Okay, a few lines.
Yeah. And then,
Wait
wait a second, and then there's this. Oh, right here, after that. Thank you.
mitigation strategies to minimize the risk, measuring EMF levels using a Gauss meter, prioritizing frequency-weighted models, maintain a minimum of 300 meters buffer from high voltage lines as field strength declines with distance. A conclusion, high-level dangers of residential EMF exposure are undeniable, with peer-reviewed science condemning current regulatory complacency. And finally, Maria would really like you to read the document. Please stop the data center development now. It's a heavy industrial project, which is dangerous and hazardous to be placed around neighborhoods and elementary schools as proposed here. Do the right thing and stop this project immediately, respectfully. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. Tonight's agenda is focused on the red line draft of the large land use zoning amendment. I want to thank you all for your continued diligence in reviewing and refining these standards, especially as new materials and advocacy letters from developers and their consultants and their attorneys continue to arrive. So now you've received detailed feedback from Miller Canfield, Dykema, others, as well as a revised site plan and supplemental information from Kimley Horn. These letters argue that some requirements are vague, overly broad, or difficult to comply with, and are urging the township to weaken or delay the ordinance. This is a pretty standard legal tactic in large land use cases, meant to pressure the township and create a record for possible legal challenge. I urge the commission not to be intimidated by these tactics. Michigan law gives townships broad authority to regulate land use for health, safety, and welfare, as long as the standards are clear, justified, and not arbitrary. The drafted ordinance is not factually defective simply because it's comprehensive or strict. The township can require applicants to demonstrate compliance with local standards and address impacts on infrastructure, noise, fire, safety, the environment. The key is to ensure requirements are clear, justified, and applied consistently to all large intensive uses, not just data centers. As you refine the ordinance, please focus on clarifying definitions, tying requirements to objective criteria, and ensuring proportionality. But don't back down from strong enforceable standards that protect the community. The process of reviewing and updating these standards is exactly what responsible governance looks like. But before I conclude, I want to point out that even though the Project Flex developers submitted additional details and revised plans, there's still several critical deficiencies that remain unresolved. Ambient noise measurements, tonal analysis, independent peer reviews are still missing. Airport compatibility documentation, bird hazard mitigation aren't provided. Sealed calculation for water use and discharge. Ongoing monitoring, preliminary battery hazard analysis are still deferred. So the township has fulfilled its obligation at this point by giving the applicant opportunities to correct deficiencies. But the ordinance does not require unlimited submissions or resubmissions or approval when required information continues to remain missing. Thank you for your careful consideration and your commitment to a thorough, transparent process. The community supports your efforts to create clear, defensible rules for large and intensive land uses, and we appreciate your diligence in the face of outside pressure.
Oh, good, it's at my height. My name is Melissa Noble. I sent some of you an email last night. For anybody here, they did add it to the packet. There's going to be a lot more detail there than I'm going to speak on. I'm here to address the sound study that's been resubmitted with Project Flex. The applicant claims the sound levels comply with Article 20 and that they are not required to provide ambient noise data. However, Article 20 does more than set maximal decibel limits. It also requires that sound measurements are obtained as specified by ANSI. ANSI guidelines include consideration of ambient sound. The applicant chose to use an ISO standard instead of the required ANSI standard. That choice raises serious questions about whether the measurements actually comply with township code or whether the results are even relevant. The township did not overstep by asking for additional information, such as ambient noise levels, that would have been included if the study had been done correctly. The applicant and their legal team clearly know our ordinances well enough to quote them when it supports their position. It's not reasonable to claim that they didn't know which measurement standard the township requires. The applicant also states that our ordinances only require ambient sound when the ambient sound level is higher than the maximum limits. This is also incorrect. The clause they refer to is included in the ordinance to ensure fairness because ambient sound is considered in the measurements. Otherwise, it would effectively be impossible to comply with the limit when ambient conditions alone are louder than that limit. Article 20 also includes another key element. For any source of sound which emits a pure tone sound, the maximum level limits shall be reduced by 5 decibels. When that tonal penalty is applied, the sound study no longer complies with the township limits. But we are to assume that a group that is so familiar with our ordinances somehow, conveniently, overlooked this as well. The equipment included in this study, large chillers and electrical transformers, are known to generate tonal noise. When many identical units operate at the same time, those steady sounds build on one another instead of canceling out. This is one reason why industrial sites with many chillers frequently fail tonal criteria even when single unit data looks benign. The burden is on the applicant to prove their noise will not be tonal, and they have not done that. I have emailed you, as I stated, and you put that information in the packet. There's a lot more detail. They want to be treated the same as everybody else. This is the exact same process and responsibility that any applicant or resident is held to. Submit a plan, receive feedback, and correct it. If the corrections are inadequate or the results do not comply with the ordinance, the application is denied. This is not bias or a loophole. It is a clear case of non-compliance. Any other applicant would be denied in this case, and I am requesting that you deny this application.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie, and I'm a Lyon. Can you hear me okay? And I'm a Lyon Township resident. I am speaking during public comment regarding Project Flex site plan resubmission. I want to make one request regarding this project, and that it should not be placed on any future agenda for review or approval until a complete, fully resolved submission has been filed, posted publicly, and the 28-day review period under Section 5.03D has run its course. Tonight, I want to explain why the April 8th Kimley Horn resubmission does not meet that standard. I know other residents have as well. But the Commission's own reviewers issued revise and resubmit on all 4 review letters against the second round of plans submitted in February. The April 8th response does not resolve those deficiencies. There are several examples of this, but I'll mention 2. First, the Kimley Horn letter now confirms in writing 6 emergency generators, 1 per building at the fire department's request. Those generators, however, are explicitly excluded from the noise model with a unilateral claim that they're exempt. That's not a determination that the applicant should get to make. Second, the same letter admits that concrete pads have been retained on the final site plan as future provisions for supplemental battery and ring main unit power supply. So they are trying to put the generators back in. As I've mentioned before, other contractors in town have told me that they've already been in discussions for doing that work. While the generator symbols have been removed from some of the drawings, the electrical infrastructure to support them is not. Neither of those items are resolved, and both affect safety, noise, and fire review. The township has acknowledged receiving over 1,000 resident questions about this project. The vast majority remain unanswered. Residents have asked about employment, operations, environmental impacts, public safety. Those questions are not background noise. We were also told that they would be answered and by the appropriate priorities prior to the discussion of the project moving forward. A process that cannot answer basic operational questions is not a complete process. The Kimley Horn letter also references that the Basin C construction plans were submitted on March 31st to the township. Those are not in the packet. So what other documents haven't been shared with the public? What else hasn't been posted? I want to note a pattern as well. At the April 6th board meeting, the Eagle permit cited to support the bypass channel work covers only Walbridge-owned parcels. It was presented in that meeting that they had the authority to work on the township land. That vote was correctly tabled, but the same principle applies here. Decisions should not be made on incomplete or inaccurate information. They should be reviewed, not accelerated. Finally, as recently as April 8th, the Saline Township Board formally documented additional traffic, 24-hour construction noise, and lighting violations from Walbridge, where they're manning the Saline data site. It's a continuing pattern of complaints spanning multiple categories, and we have no reason to think it won't come here as well. So I ask that you do not schedule the project for review or approval until the complete submission resolving all issues has run its course. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Nancy. I live within a mile of the proposed data center. And I come to talk about a few things. I agree with her on a few of the issues. We haven't had any answers. It's been January 2nd. We're now in April. What's going on? Where are our answers? And the reason we don't have answers is because you guys don't have the answers. because nobody has the answers. They're not telling us what they are. We need to have those answered, whether they're good or bad. But we need those answers. Now, this is not showing good faith on the township to the people. So I don't agree with that. Where's our answers? I was told last week we were going to get the fire department answers. They're not there. And something's kind of interesting. You can look up Project Flex for the Q&A, and you get this one section with a little, we're going to have documents here and here. But that's not where all the documents are sitting. The ones we want to be looking at is under you guys, under the Planning Commission. There was one that just came through for the second final site plan. And that's what these people have been talking about. Look it up, okay? It's under the Planning Commission, under the agendas. They need to know. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about traffic. So 60 trucks a day coming in, 60 going back out. So that's going to affect all the businesses in the town. Now, the little businesses will go first because nobody's going to want to go into the town. Where's those trucks coming from? They got to come into the town. Anyway, we look at it. South Hill is not by the 5 roads that come in. So that's going to affect the little guys, and that's going to affect Walmart. Walmart has about 500-600 people working for them. They're going to lay those people off because they're not going to have any customers. And you know why? Because nobody wants to shop at Walmart anymore because it's too hectic to get into the town. Do we want to lose one major business to get another one? Is that a good idea? No. I can tell you I've worked at Walmart for periodically in my life, part-time here, part-time there, and I'm back there again. And they will cut the hours. They let their people go, if they don't have work. So don't do this to the people. Don't do this to the businesses, okay? And this is for everybody out there. Please go into the Facebook pages. There's 2 Facebook pages. You guys got people fighting for you under the Lyon Township. Get them up. The Lyon Township Data Center discussion and the No Data Center in Lyon Township. You've got some really talented people.
Nancy.
Really talented people working to fight the data center. Be updated on all the information. And if you want, I have a QR code that you can get from me to get on the email list, and they will let you have all the information you need to know. So please, be alert to whatever they're putting into our township. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Frank Tartaglia, Martindale Road. I sent this document over to April Talaga to dispense to Lozati and as well as the board. Basically, this is more of what I see as a safety program recommendation summary. And essentially what we're looking at are around 3 core principles: prevention, accountability, and transparency. And you've heard from many residents here tonight. What we need to do is understand the operational best practices that will help us create the critical safeguards from a legal position. Okay, I can go through the various checklists of the overall requirements, site access and control, personal protective equipment. Essentially, I've basically documented several high-level guardrails. The conclusion of this is basically before any construction or permits are rendered to either Walbridge, Veris, whomever, okay, we need to understand that all of the testing around safety and protocols are met, not go out and try to find a needle in the haystack. This should be pretty clear and concise, as well as any third-party performance and safety bond commensurate with the size and magnitude of this project, which some industry standards have it between $50 and $100 million. Because not only will this take up 5 or 6 years of our collective lives in this community, but what happens when the next gen of data center, which Elon Musk is already talking about launching 100 of these data centers out in space. So this thing's going to be obsolete by the time it finishes up. So overall, what I'm looking at is we need to act responsibly and foresee some of these issues and concerns that you've heard, very detailed documents and positions, and not be afraid to sit back. I mean, we've got, a crack legal team that needs to be engaged for, that's what we're paying for them, right? So we need them to be engaged to insist that our safety protocols are met prior to any issuance of permits, before the first shovel goes into the ground. Because if it's after the fact, this is going to be a sinkhole at the end of the day. So I did send this out to April. Hopefully she'll dispense it to this committee and expanded members. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It's in our package. It's in our package.
Hello, my name is Jeff Barker, first name Geoff, last name Barker, Barker. I live in New Hudson. I guess the one thing that struck me, and I've attended many of these meetings since February, is the amount of missing information or conflicting information, and that people are still talking about moving forward with processes potentially or projects. I find that really kind of shocking to me. I would think that given the scope of a potential project like a data center, and we've heard many comments, not many positive, mainly negative, I think it would just be really foolhardy to move forward on this project in any way, whether it's permits or a shovel going into the ground, until all these studies are completed. It's complex, it covers many people, it covers many areas. There's health of children, which to me is paramount as a parent. And I just think that to move forward in any way, absent of all of the materials, all of the studies being done to completion, is just a grave, grave mistake. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Good. One more.
Robin Allen. I wanted to point out the fact that in regards to, not in regards to the data center, but the Coca-Cola plant off of South Hill Road. Okay. Oh. Landscaping on the west side of that, there's basically nothing. I drove there today. They planted like 3-foot tall arborvitaes. The light from that place is like, it looks like DGW landing strip. So I would ask for the township to go back and ask Coca-Cola to change that. Other thing, in regards to cleaning out the drain, do I have to come back later to talk about that?
To what?
Cleaning out the drain.
We don't know anything about
New
it.
Hudson drain.
We don't know what you're talking about. I don't anyways.
Cleaning out the New Hudson drain. Do I
Yes,
have to come back and talk
It's
about
not for our
that?
view.
You can comment on it during public comment.
I'm sorry?
You can comment on it during public comment, yes.
I can do that now?
Sure, you bet.
Yeah.
Okay.
You bet.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. When it was cleaned out, a portion of it I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. All that did was it flooded out the residents on the west side of Milford Road. So I don't want Walbridge to come back and say, because we cleaned out this small portion, that you gave us approval to move forward with the data center. Okay. Other question is, have easements for this drain cleanout been put on hold? Because I own property, and the township's already come in and marked trees to cut trees on my property. So I would like to know whether easements have been put on hold. And I guess that's it for now. So,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Amy, and I read some of what I received, and I'd like to address the letter that I thought was pretty insane. But I don't think there should be a developer or a company that just because they fit a slot should be approved. That doesn't make sense to me. They're building in our neighborhood, and we should get a choice in that. And it shouldn't be a blurb in a agenda. I mean, you guys don't even know about a drain, and you're in the 3 meetings or 4 meetings that go on. How do you all not know what's going on? That's beyond me when we get accused of not knowing about the data center because we didn't get an agenda and we didn't come up here and look at the board. There used to be a time and place where a big white sign would go up on property and it would say rezoning, public hearing, or development, public hearing, and you drove by it and went, oh, yeah, I better check into that. What do you want? All of us to run around and protect what you guys are doing? That's not right. We have a voice. We pay taxes. I don't care if Walbridge is the biggest taxpayer in this city. We as a group have to pay about the same amount at least. So we should have a voice in this data center. And I can't believe that subdivisions can take 2 years to go through their planning, and a data center went in months. That's insane. We deserve a voice that influences the decisions impacting our air, our water, and our way of life. This data center is going to change the rural look that you guys have right behind your heads. It's not going to look like that anymore driving down Milford Road. They're going to whack down all the trees. They're just starting to form a really cool canopy over it and giving us that nice rural feeling. 2-lane road. And now you're going to have semi-trucks flying down it. And let me tell you, they're not going to come down off the freeway and go past Walmart and go down. They're going to find any way possible to get to that area as fast as they can because they sometimes get paid by the hour and sometimes by the load. They're going to be coming down 10 Mile and down Milford and then down that way. They're going to be coming down back. And when the traffic gets jammed up on the freeway, holy cow. 5 o'clock, it's going to be total gridlock down there. You guys did not do a proper traffic study. You didn't do it when the school was open, when there's traffic. Yeah, pick, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You're still gonna get traffic, but it's not gonna be anywhere. I've been sitting on the freeway at 4:30 to 5. I am out on the freeway at the exit for South Lyon, waiting to come around. Now, what are you gonna do when there's semi-trucks at that same time? They take up 3 car lengths. We are gonna be totally screwed. You wanna go up and get a pizza? Forget it. You're not gonna be able to get there at dinner time. It's not right. And if this, as we've been told, was the best we could expect for that piece of property, then someone's not doing their job. The zoning should have been upgraded a long time ago. When you saw data centers popping up all around us, someone should have been thinking, you're the planner, you're the McKenna, he's a developer, he knew it was coming, and he made plans. You guys didn't. And even when it all went to hell around us, you guys still didn't do anything. You let this happen to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if I'm amazed at, after going to the last meeting and finding out all about the ring road and the disaster that is, that it's supposed to cost $330 million, whatever, and it's almost at 7. What happened there?
Thank you. Let's
Where's
continue.
the planning commission? And, we're gonna have to pay for the electrical and the gas
Ma'am, your
line.
time has
Amy.
expired.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Shelley Thorson, Lyon Township. I'm just making a few observations. I have noticed that when they submitted the first time, you guys approved it in, 40 minutes on the first? You guys can't even do a sidewalk that quick. And that was an incomplete package. Now they're still submitting incomplete information, and you're still allowing it, not stopping it. My observation is these data centers are coming into small towns, small farming communities, and they all think everyone up there's a bodunk dumbass. Plain and simple. You're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid, they're stupid. And that's what they think of you, and that's exactly what you're gonna prove to them, aren't you, if you do not stop this. Because all of this should not be contingent. It should have never gotten as far as it is. And for someone to be up there and not know about a 100-year-old watershed and the whole drain thing, I mean, I've only been here since the 80s and I've known that. And you are part of...
It's not per our view.
It should be per
You
your
understand
view.
what that means?
It
Don't
should
call us
be.
stupid.
I'm not calling you stupid. I'm telling you what they think you are. They all think all these township people are stupid, and that's why they're doing this in small towns. They're not giving you the right sound studies. They're not answering any of the questions from that January meeting on the... Nothing's posted that's valid that we've asked for answers for. Why aren't they supplying you with the answers that we've requested as citizens? That's what's being paid for. That's what was agreed upon for us as citizens, to be provided the information. They're not providing it because they think you all lack the intelligence.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. We're moving on. I assume no DBA report tonight, correct?
Correct.
Okay. New business. AP 26-11, Consumers Energy Lyon 29 Storage Field Site Plan Amendment Review. Brian?
You can let us
Okay,
run our meeting,
thank
or
you.
you can excuse yourself.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. The request before you is an amendment of a project for Consumers Energy on Griswold Road, on the west side of Griswold Road, north of 9 Mile Road. There is a processing building that was permitted or approved as part of a site plan last summer of 2025. The project had some discussion about the sidewalk that is required or the pathway that is required along Griswold Road. And at that time, the Planning Commission approved the project on the condition that the 10-foot pathway on the road frontage could not include a boardwalk. There are some wetland areas, lowland areas, tree-covered areas, and so after discussions with the Road Commission, and I understand the Eagle, the applicants have found that installing that pathway is not viable as it was presented to the Planning Commission, and so the request is to remove that pathway and choose the payment in lieu of option instead. This is not something that we can review or approve administratively, especially given the fact that we talked about it and there are specific conditions in the approval. So the request is back in front of the Planning Commission this evening. From a planning perspective, there are no other pathways along the west side of Griswold Road. I know that we do have to start somewhere with the pathway along all of our roads, but that is the existing condition. So we're deferring to the Planning Commission as to whether it is appropriate to choose the payment in lieu of option. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Minor?
If the applicant wants to make a contribution to the pathway fund in
Rick, will you turn the mic?
It's on.
You're good.
if the planning commission wants to make a contribution to the pathway fund in lieu of installing the path, we have no objection.
Can't hear you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay. Please.
No.
Green lights on. Yeah, no problem.
How about now? Any better?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cordless.
All right, one more time.
We have no objection to the planning commission waiving the requirement of the path.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
Yeah, Rick. I believe a comment was that you don't see any wetlands on the project. They do have some issues with maybe getting some permits. But I don't see anything in that drawing that would prohibit them from building that driveway. Now, I know for a fact there's no other sidewalk. There's no other sidewalks in that area. But,
Correct.
you know, if you look at projects around Michigan, I mean, you look at the bay up in St. Ignace. If they didn't start putting sidewalks in, little sidewalks in 30 years ago, nothing would have looked as good as it does. So, I'm all in favor of making them put it in. That's all.
Any other comments? Okay, good. Applicant. Go ahead. Hi there.
How you doing, sir?
Good. Name and address, please.
May I present, or just
Yeah, give us your name and
My name is
address.
Joe Lawson, here on behalf of Consumers Energy.
Okay.
Our address is 1 Energy Plaza, Jackson, Michigan, 49201.
Sure.
Do you have a flash drive, or do you want me to?
I can do either one.
I'm happy to run for you.
So I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. As I've mentioned, my name is Joe Lawson, here on behalf of Consumers Energy. We're here to discuss the site plan amendment request in relation to our Lion 29 project. This is a gas project that, as Brian mentioned earlier, the Planning Commission did consider and approve preliminarily last August. Since that time, we have gone through a detailed engineering review. And as part of that review, it came back that the bike path as proposed initially, there's not enough room in the road right-of-way in order to install it. On top of the issues with the wetlands, and there's also a culvert that goes underneath Griswold to the east toward the substation that would have to be altered, and there's a county ditch that would have to be enclosed or relocated as well. So with taking all that into consideration, the Road Commission did provide us with a review and denied our application. We did make application to put the bike path in the road right away, and we were denied. I do have slides that I'll show where the wetlands are delineated. We did have a wetland delineation conducted at that time as well, but I'm getting ahead of myself, so I apologize.
Okay, could you slow down a little bit? Joe, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Stop there for a minute. So they denied it because it was too close to the road?
Correct.
That's all. It was your plan that they said moving forward, you gotta move it farther than 5 feet away.
Right, and there's not enough right-of-way to do that without going onto private property.
That's what I want to see.
Yes, sir. So just very quickly for those that don't recall, or those in the audience that were not here in August. So the two requests, the tree preservation plan, that one we're removing more trees than what we anticipated back in August. Reason for that is the fire department came back and asked for a wider driveway, which I have a slide to show you later as well. So it went from a 12-foot wide driveway to a 20-foot wide driveway. There's wetlands on the south that we couldn't touch, so that unfortunately the trees on the north side had to come out. I'm sorry, can we go to the next plan, or next slide? So the process or the project itself of the Lion 29 project, it consists of an operations building that houses the gas drying equipment. That's what this facility is for. It takes the natural gas, runs it through these vessels that are filled essentially with salt, dries it out, and then distributes it to our customers dry. That way there's no moisture in the gas itself. There's metering equipment. Obviously we have to measure the flow of gas that goes through the facility. Pressure regulation system. This is all normal stuff for a gas facility. Continuous gas monitoring systems, continuous fire detection systems, a fire suppression system, which is kind of unusual for some of our facilities, but this one's unique. So it does have a fire suppression system, and security fencing to limit access to the facility. Obviously it's a secured site. So this is an aerial photograph of the area, 9 Mile going across the bottom, Griswold on the right there. This was 2 parcels. We have since this aerial obviously went ahead and combined those 2 parcels into a single parcel. The northern portion there where the pond is, my understanding was previously approved or was going to be a self-storage facility. We did purchase the property for this facility. The gray area kind of circled just below there is the gas facility as it exists today. So we will tie into that facility with the new building that we have proposed. Next slide, please. So these are the trees. I'll start off with the tree removal and replacement amendment. Those trees in the red box are the ones that we're requesting that to remove due to the expansion or the widening of that driveway that goes through. Now this driveway is being widened once again, as I'll show in the next plan, to allow the fire department a loop. So they don't have to back out. They can come in and loop out. And the site plan will show that. We did provide the township with a tree inventory. So we are replacing those trees as required by ordinance. So with the trees that we're removing, we're replacing them with 35 new trees, which we have a plan for. We'll show you here in a moment. Yep, sorry. This is that driveway that I was speaking of that you saw in that plan. For a single vehicle, it looks fine now, but as I mentioned, the fire department needs it a little bit wider, so we're willing to do that. But unfortunately, those trees on the right have to come out. This is that, like I said, the loop plan. The darker gray is the driveway areas. So if you follow it from the right through the left, it goes around behind the building, and it kind of, there's still gravel there, but the fire trucks can loop all the way back out to Griswold. Once again, the trees would be on the north side of that southern driveway. So it's kind of hard to see on here, but the trees that we're proposing to plant, the 35 trees, there's a berm along, or plantings in a berm along Griswold, right in front of the light gray area, right through there, and then some along the northeast property line, just near the driveway, next to it's a bus garage next door, and then again on the northwest side along the detention basin. So those are the replacement trees. And this is just a little clearer view of that. It's a little easier to read. So the non-motorized pathway, this is the response I received from the Road Commission. Like I said, that it has to be located 5 feet from the back of curb, 12 feet from the edge of the pavement. Unfortunately, there's not enough room within the public road right-of-way currently to make that fit we've had our engineers look at it. We even looked at maybe shrinking it down to something less than 10 feet, maybe down to an 8, and there's still not enough room. So we did look at the options, and coming before you folks was the next viable option. So this is, on the right is the wetland delineation that we had Steve Niswander from Niswander Environmental conduct. So on the far right, along Griswold, there's that yellow is where the county ditch and the wetlands are. On the right, I took this photo yesterday. The pink ribbons, and I apologize, the picture's not great, but the pink ribbons delineates the wetlands. Those pink ribbons say wetland delineation on them. And that is basically the road right of way. The poles are just outside the road right of way. So it would have to be still beyond that, which once again, we're getting into wetlands as we go south. And then going further south, it's not part of this project, but to wrap around 9 Mile, it's all wetlands all the way to the railroad tracks.
Which corner is this on?
Griswold and 9 Mile.
Northwest.
Northwest corner.
The northwest, so where the power things are right there.
The power, that's on the east side. Yeah, that's DTE substation. We're across the street. This photo, or excuse me, this plan here, as I mentioned in my review or my application letter as well, those 2 red lines that you kind of see along Griswold as well, those are our 2 natural gas pipelines that we'd very much appreciate not building over top of, because if there's an issue, now we're digging up the bike path to get to them. Those are also on our private property as well. They're not in the public road right away. And then, like I said, this is the plan that we presented to you first time. We did, like I said, try to get it in the road right away, but unfortunately the road commission denied that application. So these are, not to put Brian on the spot, but these are the comments that were provided in the review letters from August and then the one most recently, basically saying that there's no objection to a payment in lieu of, which we're willing to do. It's not a matter of trying to get out of doing anything, it's just a matter of it being a feasible option. So we are willing to make that payment, and I believe the next slide is the breakdown. So based on the engineer's estimate that we received for the pre-construction meeting, the cost estimate for the bike path for our frontage was $31,000. We're willing to pay 125% of that to assist the township in providing those services, installation, replacement, or repair somewhere where it better benefits the folks in the community. So if the Planning Commission would agree, like I said, the payment in lieu of, we're willing to pay $38,750 to the bike path fund for the township. Now, this is kind of a side note. So Thursday afternoon, as well as this morning, I received this fraudulent email on township letterhead, essentially, saying if I wanted to stay on the Planning Commission meeting tonight, I had to pay this invoice via wire transfer. I knew it was garbage. So I contacted staff and let them know, hey, this is out there. And I brought this up and I put it in here just for your guys' knowledge and for any one other of your developers that come through, especially if it's a small mom and pop. They might not deal with this on a regular basis, so just watch out. They are out there. As you see, it says, sincerely, Jenny Mule. So it's like, it looks like it came, and there was actually, as you see on the top, a Lyon Township invoice that was attached. I didn't open it because I didn't want it, if it was a phishing type thing. But I did send it to my corporate security as well as the township, just to let you know. So the next slide is, again, this morning, where they broke it down saying, hey, you didn't pay, do you want to stay on the agenda tonight? You got to pay us $4,900 via wire transfer. Don't call, only email me. So for all of you and developers in the audience, keep an eye out, and, just if it looks strange, and just keep your heads up. And I just want to point that out because, like I said, I've seen them before, but maybe others haven't. So just very quickly to wrap up here, we're requesting the amendment to the tree preservation plan. We've replaced the trees as required by ordinance, and then obviously we're requesting the amendment to the site plan for the non-motorized pathway with a payment in lieu of that construction. And don't take the bait when it comes to fraudulent emails. Development team, I guess we can go over that. These are not everybody. Angela, Trent, Damian Wetzel are here from our engineering team. So if there's any questions from a technical standpoint, we have folks here that can answer them for you.
Very good. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, sir.
Good presentation. Questions?
I have a question. I just want to make sure I understand. Are you saying you cannot put the sidewalk in without at all? Or you can't do it, it's going to be excessive amount of money, additional dollars to do it? Am I purchasing?
Within the current public road right-of-way, there's not enough room to meet the road commission standards for separation from the road. In order to do it, either the road commission or somebody would have to buy additional right-of-way from us, and then have that, be within a new public right-of-way. Now, something that doesn't show up really well on this plan, and it kind of does on the photos a little bit, but with that substation being across the street, there's a number of utility poles just outside the right-of-way that would also have to be either relocated, or the bike path has to go deeper into our property. So those poles for DTE would also have to be somehow adjusted or relocated as well. So it's a little bit of both. Is it completely impossible? No, money can fix a lot of things, but is it practical?
Did you get a quote, what it would cost?
No, we did not. Because we have wetland impacts as well.
Estimate, you have nothing?
Well, there's simply no room to do it. That's it. I mean, that's what it really boils down to. Outside of the wetland issues, because if there's not a defined public purpose right now, our environmental specialists are telling us, you're gonna have a hard time getting an Eagle permit if there's not a defined public purpose at this point in time. Now, if this were to go through and connect to something, then maybe Eagle would consider it. But right now, there's nothing between 9 and 10 mile. And then it goes quite a ways down 9 mile before you tap into anything either. So our environmental specialists say we'd have a difficult time getting an Eagle permit to impact those wetlands.
Okay.
You had some good answers.
I try, sir. I'm just being honest.
I think there's a good example of why we have the option of contributing to the bike path. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Carol, you don't agree?
No, I completely changed my opinion. You had some good answers, especially with removing those poles from ITC that are across the road. And I know you're doing work farther down the road on 9 Mile.
Yes.
And that's, to my knowledge, that's like a secondary.
Correct.
In case there's a failure.
Well, it's a regulator station, so it regulates the pressure even more so. Then it gets distributed out to our homes from there. So this facility takes gas from underground, dries it, puts it out to the system, and then it would go to that regulator station. It would get decompressed a little bit even more and regulated, and then out to the customers.
Thank you for your testimony on that. But one thing that probably gets you off the hook for me is when I really thought into is you're never going to maintain it.
Oh, you mean like snow and whatnot? No, that is something honestly we have concerns with, and we tell commissions that this is not a manned facility. There's no one out there 24/7. So if you wanted snow plowed, I wouldn't say like our motto.
That's okay. All right, you're right.
Thank you.
If somewhere down the line, if you could see 20 years down the line and make an improvement to that site 20 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And you could put a sidewalk in and put it in.
Yeah, if it makes sense.
You know what I'm saying?
Yo, I hear you.
Yep. That's all I ask for.
Carl, I was thinking the same thing.
Oh, good.
And actually, this goes on all the time throughout the township. When we talk about putting in sidewalk, who's going to maintain them? Who's going to maintain them? But I think more importantly in this case, the road commission basically has pretty much the final say-so. And to your point, with Eagle and everything involved in trying to get the easement, I mean, you've done all you can do. So I will be supporting giving him the waiver. So thank you.
So make a motion there, Jim Chuck.
Sure. I'll make a motion AP-26-11 be moved forward and granted the
site plan amendment.
Thank you. The site plan amendment and the the waiver of the sidewalk in lieu of paying into the Township Sidewalk Fund, based on the information presented by McKenna as well as CES.
Very good.
Support.
Motion. We have motion support. He beat you. All right, any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. No, it's not a public hearing. This is not a public hearing. Thank you. You were good. Thank you, sir. Good. Thank you. Next, AP 26-14, Encore Premier Subdivision Site Plan Review Extension. McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item on your agenda this evening is an extension request for Encore Premier, which is a 25-unit single-family housing development that is proposed at the northwest corner of Napier and 9 Mile Roads. This was originally approved back in April of 2024, and the applicant team, the development team, is going through their more detailed reviews. They at one point had requested an engineering variance from the township board that was denied, and the plans have been updated to meet our engineering standards. There continue to be submittals for detailed engineering. It is very apparent that the development team intends to continue to move forward on this project. So from that aspect, we see no issue with issuing a one-year extension. The other piece that we take a look at is what has been approved or what are moving pieces in the area. And since this project was originally approved, the Burr Oaks project, which is single-family homes on the south side of 9 Mile Road, west of Napier, has been approved. However, that project is still in the detailed engineering phase also. This project is a little bit ahead of that Burr Oaks project. The other moving piece is that we know now that the Road Commission for Oakland County intends to install a roundabout at this intersection, the Napier and 9 Mile intersection. And so our only request of the Planning Commission this evening is that if you were to issue an extension on this site plan, that the applicants work with the Road Commission on incorporating the roundabout design into the final detailed engineering. We have already had conceptual meetings with the Road Commission about the sidewalk layout on both sides, the 9 Mile and the Napier side of this project. So we believe it can fit, and the Road Commission is planning for connections to this project. So with that, the zoning ordinance allows the Planning Commission to issue a one-year extension. If you were to do so, it would be a project that would end up being valid through April 8th of 2027. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, question?
Nothing right now?
Brian?
Yes.
There's no, because this is approved before the roundabout was put in motion, there's no issue with jeopardizing anything with the roundabout, the design, that trumps, even though we approved the plans in 2024?
Right. The Road Commission owns all of the right-of-way that is adjacent to this property, so they're fitting, as I understand it, they're fitting their roundabout design within the right-of-way.
Okay.
All right, good. Cool. All right, thank you. Mr. Minor.
We have, is this working?
No.
Again?
Tap that button on the bottom, Rick.
Why don't you come and sit at Patty's seat?
I may have to.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah, you can speak up.
Speak
Just,
loudly.
I almost said the same thing.
No.
no.
make sure it works first?
Yep.
Good.
I think you're right. Yeah, that charging cable seems like really sloppy.
Testing.
Check, check.
Give them both.
Don't move it.
You sure?
Cable is loose.
Mr. Chairman, the short of it is, we have no objection to this site plan extension request.
That's it?
All that for
That's it.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
No, just for the record though, I mean, you did mention in your letter about Simcheck the road. Remember they went to the board for,
Right, right. I think it's a matter of Rick Miner being picky. I didn't want it to be construed as part of Simcheck not requiring those utility extensions. And it looked like a simple operation in AutoCAD where they just expand that viewport, as we call them, and just show everything.
okay. That's in your letter. Thank you.
Good. Applicant.
Good evening, Chair and Planning Commission. So my name is Balaji Satyavarapu and I live in Canton, Michigan. Thanks again for Planning Commission for considering our request to extend for 1 more year, and we are cruising on this project. So we are kind of in the tail end, and I'm expecting that we are going to be groundbreaking in the next couple of months. And I hope this might be our last extension. So again, any questions for me?
Okay, thank you. Questions?
I'm good.
None.
Right?
No, I'm good.
Chuck?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, wait, don't go anywhere yet. Okay. Let's have a motion then.
Make a motion to approve the 1-year extension for AP-26-14 Encore Premier subdivision.
I'll support the motion.
Motion support. Any other comments?
You want to cite the McKenna letter dated 4/7, CES letter dated 4/8?
Okay, very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, good. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next, AP 22-64, Cattails Preserve, Plan Development, Final Review.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. The last applicant-driven item on your agenda this evening is a final plan development review for Cattails. This is a 127-unit single-family project on the south side of 9 Mile Road. This project would be developing the Cattails Golf Course. This project has been in front of the Planning Commission and the Township Board several times, beginning all the way back at the end of '22. So for those in the crowd, residential plan developments like this one end up going through conceptual review at the Township, at the Planning Commission, at the Township Board, and then it comes back to the Planning Commission for a public hearing. That was held in 2024. Subsequent to that public hearing, there was a recommendation to the Township Board, who subsequently approved the preliminary version of this plan. It's at that preliminary version of the plan where a lot of the details of the project get laid out. We're still not into detailed engineering at that point, but the layout and the phasing and unit counts, open spaces, things like that are all approved. Here at the final phase, we are checking to make sure that every condition that was listed during the preliminary review is showing up here in the final plan development plans. At the same time, we're working administratively with the development team, both CES, the attorneys, myself, fire, to make sure that the plan development agreement aligns with our ordinance and matches the plans. That development agreement ends up going to the township board with your recommendation on the final plan this evening. So as with all of these plan developments, the Planning Commission doesn't see that the final version of that plan development agreement. That's something that is reviewed at the township board level. But this evening, we have no issues with the plans that are presented. We have our review letter dated March 16th. Just want to highlight a couple of things that the project is proposed in 2 different phases. So phase 1 is the western portion. That's going to connect up to the, they're called the woodlands to the west? No, I'm blanking. Meadows, thank you. Meadows to the west here that is being built today. The second phase is the eastern portion. The development team is paving about a half-mile of 9 Mile Road, so that pavement will continue to the eastern property line in accordance with the ordinance. Some of our other questions or concerns, there have been some modifications to the tree removals and replacement tree plantings that have been proposed on the project due to more detail on grading and more detail on detention and setting elevations of the home pads. All of those comply with the ordinance. We have no issues with the landscaping. Our only note that we have that I know is in the CES letter as well. CES and the development team from Pulte did walk the site to consider which of the pathways that are out as part of the golf course will be retained or enhanced or replaced to make sure that they're in a safe condition. So we want to make sure that the plans are reflective of that. But outside of that, this continues to be consistent with all of the other reviews and the steps that the project has gone through and the preliminary plan that was approved by the township board. So at this point, we believe it's appropriate to recommend approval of the final site plan set to the township board. In terms of next steps, if you were to take an approval action this evening, this does go back to the township board where they do 2 readings of the final review because plan development is a zoning change per the zoning ordinance. So it would be in front of the township board for a first reading, which is a complete set of plans and the development agreement, and then one more time before it goes into effect. I can take any questions you might have. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. Questions for Brian?
No, not at this time.
Mr. Minor.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. You have my report dated April 8th. It's 3 pages. Rather than read the whole thing, I just wanted to highlight a couple of items. First one being road improvements, 9 Mile Road. We note that RCOC had an issue with sight distance at the eastern project entrance. Those concerns have been mitigated by the design engineer to the point where RCOC has provided a waiver for that sight distance. And Brian mentioned the pathways. I would like to add that many of the pathways out there, the existing car paths are poor, and we recommend that they all be removed and replaced. Some of them are located in wetland buffers. We've had a request to allow them to stay there. We have no objection to that. And I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Yeah, first thing is the Selma Drive. Is that gonna be closed until the construction is completed on Cattails?
Which drive?
The one that goes into the other sub? Is that in the documents, pre-construction?
I don't know. I don't
I'd
know if it's
request
in the
that it would be
documents or not. In the
remain
final,
closed during construction?
Okay.
final PD document.
The elephant in the room, the filling in of some of the wetlands with the soil, all the peat and everything, that has always been an issue, and it's an issue in your letter. How they could firm up that, I don't remember what section it was in, the houses, what the lot numbers are.
Oh, there are areas where there is a lot of fill.
So how was that during the process? Is that how you're gonna? Because I know that, what are we, 3 feet down below the surface of surface water, right?
That's
gonna be difficult.
Yeah. What the developer had done on this project is he can find the areas of the homes to uplands. I wouldn't anticipate them encountering any peat, since they won't be intruding into wetlands. But if they do, then it'll have to be removed and replaced with engineered fill.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, that's all I have.
Rick, what type, I didn't get any reports on the soil testing. I went back to 2024. Was there anything done as far as the soil being tested?
Yes, we do have soil borings throughout the site. We have borings within the footprints of the proposed basins, and we have soil borings along the roadways at various locations.
So what are we looking for in the testing? What are you looking for?
We're looking, I look for two things. Generally, crummy soil, like Mr. Town pointed out, peat. Are there areas of peat that need to be hogged out? And from the standpoint of the detention basins, I'm looking for what is the groundwater elevation out there? Because if you can dig a detention basin, but if it fills up with groundwater, you may not have enough detention storage. And that is something that the design engineer has to take into account. Okay, I cannot start my storage elevation down here. I'm gonna have to start it here where the groundwater is.
Do they test for contaminants?
Typically, on a project like this, they haven't because of its previous use. Right. A golf course. Right. There is, unless there's some suspicion, and perhaps the applicant and his engineer can address that further, but unless there's some suspicion of contamination out there, they won't automatically check for that.
What about, because it looks like there's going to be probably thousands of tons brought in for fill. Now, is that dirt tested? I mean, where's that?
I would have the applicant. I'm sorry.
Would that be a question for the applicant? Or?
I would have him address that. Typically, we want to know where it's coming from, and that obviously you don't want to just bring in peat or other material that you don't want. It should be good fill that could be engineered. Yeah.
So we get dump slips normally on something like that?
Yeah, is there control over that? Or
ask the applicant?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Anything else? Okay. No? Good. Okay, applicant. Name and address, please.
Good evening. Joe Score, Vice President of Land for Pulte Homes of Michigan, 2800 Livernois, Troy. I also have our engineers, the Atwell Group, here tonight to answer any questions. So I'll answer your questions. I know there were a few. I will say that our plan, our final plan is in compliance and it's consistent with the original approved preliminary plan. We made a few modifications that we think improved and benefited the site, but other than that, we have a consistent plan. And at this point, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
What are some of the modifications?
So I would say that the most notable one is that if you look at the southern boundary in the eastern section of the site, originally, and we do have a sketch that kind of shows the before and after if you want. You can pull it up, yeah. You notice that the originally approved plan on the left side, there was a 15 feet between the homes and the property line. Yeah. We pushed it back, I believe, 175 feet. So I think that's a considerable setback and buffer that we applied at this site. And then it was mentioned just in terms of the access. We weren't involved with the preliminary approved plan. We discovered that the access didn't meet road commission standards. So then we modified the plan, did a redesign, pushed it as far as we could to get in compliance, and then requested a waiver from the road commission, which was granted. So I think these are beneficial changes.
What? I know, you go. Go.
Could you point out some of the benefits, like the pocket parks? What's going to be in that pocket park and where they're at?
So, I mean, you could take a look. There were a number of parks, and the site's got over 60% open space.
Okay, so on the original drawing, you showed the pocket parks.
Yeah.
You don't on this drawing.
Yeah. Matt, do we have drawings for the pocket park and the amenities, amenity plan?
As far as the pocket parks being proposed, they're not in the plan. As far as the original approval, what's the understanding of what was requested?
Speak up a little. Your name again?
Yeah, so we were just the 67 acres of open space and the pathways. I'm sorry. Matthew Bush, Atwell.
Okay, so it's not consistent with the preliminary.
Is there something in particular on the
preliminary? Well, yeah, I was looking for an amendment. It's got a lot of paths and a lot of open space.
So
we're going to put more than 2 or at least 2 pocket parks there. A pocket park to me is not just a void. A pocket park has something for kids to use, an amenity. Yeah. I don't care if it's a chin-up bar.
So
we look for pocket parks in this township.
Yeah, what I'll say is whatever was approved, this might not have every detail on this particular graphic right here, but whatever was approved under the original plan will be consistent with the final plan. So if it was approved in a requirement under the preliminary PD, it will be consistent with the final PD.
Help me out, Brian. I know you do a lot of plans, so it's the same with us, but.
Yeah, on the preliminary plan, the open space connections were simply that. They were connections to the pathway network. They were not designated recreational pockets like we do in some of the projects. So as far as looking for, are there recreational pockets on the final?
Yeah.
They're not, because they weren't on part of the preliminary.
I think to me that was misleading. I've been looking for them and couldn't wait to ask you that question. So it's very misleading to say that there's pocket parks, as far as I'm concerned. So I'd like to see some amenities in there. I don't care what it is. Am I the only one? I'm only one person on this planning commission.
Carl, I think you bring up a good point. I don't think we're asking for too much. Put, something for the kids, a bench. To Carl's point, this is the expectation. We're not talking about building a pavilion with basketball hoops, but
I think it's got turned around a little bit. We have no problem with amenities. We're a large developer. We do amenities and all sorts of recreational amenities, whether they're passive or active, through our developments. What I'm saying is that whatever's required under the preliminary plan, which was approved by Lyon Township, we are offering the same thing. Now, if you'd like for us to go above and beyond, that's a different issue or a different question. It's something that we would consider. There's no doubt.
Could you see that it might have been a little misleading to me?
So,
pocket parks.
So, sir, I guess what, I guess, I don't know what was misleading, and I apologize if someone misled you.
No,
but what
I was
yeah.
very excited, actually, to
Yeah.
see some amenities in there.
Yeah.
And then come to the final and they're not there.
Again, we weren't involved with the preliminary approval. We took a preliminary site plan PD approval. We took it, we engineered it, we made some modifications, some changes that benefited the plan. If it didn't have amenities on the preliminary plan, they might not show up on the final. Again, it's consistent with what you already approved. If you're looking for something more, we're not opposed to that. We would consider that. We do it all the time. It just wasn't. We didn't entertain it because it wasn't on the original plan.
That makes sense to me.
Again, we started this in, 22? You know?
They take a long time, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the only plan we do, and, you know.
Well, can we ask you guys to consider some amenities?
Sure. I mean, we're happy to work with you, happy to work with planning. If it's a play set for kids or
That's
some.
all I'm asking.
Yeah, no, it's no problem at all.
That's all
I wanted to be certain that.
I hear what you're saying,
Okay.
and you hear what I'm saying.
Sure.
So we're
not a problem.
perfect.
What lots do you see as problem as far as fill?
Matt, do you want to talk about particular areas of the site? We don't see a problem in terms of the grading, and it's going to meet all standards. And relative to your question about fill, it's going to be clean fill. It's not going to be contaminated fill. And then relative to as I remember correctly, we do environmental testing on every community that we develop. We're a publicly traded company, so we do a phase 1 environmental no matter what the site is.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk to Matt about particular areas in terms of grading and fill, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think Joe said it quite nicely there. As far as any fills that do need to bring in, there's a testing. They do the slips, as mentioned, when they bring in the truck fills. We're not anticipating tons of fills. There's a lot of earth moving on this site, per the geotech report. We're moving the good soils. We're not, digging out wetlands and putting them elsewhere on the site. So we don't have any concerns.
And this has been sold to Pulte.
Well,
Correct?
So we don't own it yet. Okay, we typically will take title once it's fully approved and permitted. But we control it, we've engineered it, we're the applicant, and we will be the developer. We will build the homes, we will run the HOA, we're going to do it from A to Z.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have no issues.
No issues.
Good.
I'm good.
Okay, turn to any issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would be a motion to the board.
Motion to the board,
Yeah, me.
Motion of the board to,
She's got one question. You want to let her ask a question?
I would just like you guys to realize that every time you ask for a path through a subdivision or a play set or whatever, they pay for it, but ultimately it's the people that move in that have to pay for the maintenance of it. We have to rebuild the trails.
Yeah,
we have to pay
we agree. We've been through that, but where do you
keep that in mind when you require all this fancy stuff?
We do. Yep. Yeah, we don't want gravel paths in or anything like that.
Which is,
Thank you.
motion of the board for approval of AP 22-64, citing all comments and CES letter dated April 8th, as well as McKenna letter dated March 16th. Is that your newest one, Brian?
Yeah, March 16th, yes.
Okay.
I'll support that motion.
Motion and support. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, very good. Congratulations. All right.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, yeah, we did. I just wanted to make sure that that road isn't going to be used into the other side. On the construction. So pre-construction, they'll.
Not a problem. Well,
I
you
didn't think
want it
there
blocked
would be.
off during construction?
Yeah.
That's actually our development to the west. So we have control over it. We can stop it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, not a problem.
Old business AP 26-05, large land use. including large data centers. Is it data or data?
Take your pick.
Take your pick, okay. Potato, potato. Yeah, potato, potato. Special land use standards. Kind of.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. In your packet, we have a red line version and a clean version of round 2 of our draft large land use ordinance. I've got it up on the screen, but the first page of this letter are the items that the Township Board asked us to review as part of this ordinance and make sure that we are addressing them. I've got a few notes here. Some of these things are included elsewhere in the ordinance already. Some of them are covered in the ordinance but enhanced in this version. Some of them, quite honestly, we just need to do more research and bring back more feedback to you. And so I'll hit on each one of those as we go through. I just intend to hit on the changes this evening. If there's something you want me to stop and talk about, we can certainly do that. So, moving forward, under section 2 of the ordinance, in the paragraph for P, I'm just trying to clarify the collective use of multiple buildings used for the same purpose, i.e. a site condo, a campus, a corporate park. The other item, moving on to page 3, next draft, I'm going to make sure I put page numbers on these. Sorry about that. Page number 3, I'm calling out, this is the introductory section of this ordinance, of this subsection of the ordinance, and I'm giving us a little bit of leeway for user-specific or use-specific standards that this ordinance doesn't call for. So I'm allowing both the Planning Commission and the Township Board to add items of criteria that will help clarify a use. We heard both from the Township Board and from residents that I'm calling them sensitive use setbacks because it's not just schools that we've heard about, but in theory we could get hospitals, medical centers, churches, things like that. So this is a section of the ordinance that I want to get in depth in what are appropriate setbacks for each of the particular uses. And as we're talking through this, it also needs to include all of the other uses that are permitted within the industrial districts. So this will end up looking like a matrix when we're done. So hopefully I have progress on that, if not a complete version for the next revision. Under number 2, energy use assessment, some clarity on what exactly we're looking for in terms of the description of the energy use. So we're looking for both average daily consumption of energy, peak daily consumption of energy. I have also added a portion that specifically allows on-site power generation for solar systems, but none other. And so elsewhere in the ordinance, we do have standards for what those roof-mounted solar systems can look like. And the way that our ordinance reads is to keep them low to the surface of the roof so that we're not having these substantial sails up on roofs. So that's that element. In terms of water use assessment, we've clarified again what I'm looking for in terms of water usage. So I'm looking for gallons per day in daily consumption and peak consumption. So that'd be 2 numbers that we would expect there. Also calling for clarification on cooling systems for mechanicals. So this is a topic that we've talked about and heard about water usage, chemical additives, discharge methods. Moving on to sound and vibration. Our ordinance does talk about tonality already. We heard some of that in the public comments today. However, I wanted to make some clarifications. Somebody from the public added infrasound and low frequency sound, so that's clarified here also. I think that was a good addition. We're also calling for, if there are specific sound attenuating mechanisms that the development team intends to use, that should be shown on the site plan as well. For site lighting, we do have a standard in the ordinance, or a substantial section in the ordinance about site lighting. I'm calling here, so because these sites are so large, to the extent that the operator doesn't need lighting, we want it turned off. So whether that's motion activated or whether that's timed, that should be either turned off or dimmed. So that's what that section is looking for. Got several questions, concerns from the public, and we heard another one of them this evening about electromagnetic radiation and interference, so I've added that. But I also found some standards relating to interference with reception, relating to not just data centers, but other larger land uses that have the potential for interfering with reception. So I want to make sure that we're covering that topic as well. At the last meeting, we did talk a little bit about drain tile inspections, and I believe one of the commenters wanted some clarification on who's actually going to conduct that review of the drain tile inspection. So I'm putting the onus on the township engineer here. There was some question of whether that goes to fire or building. Rick, I'm putting you on the spot for that one when that comes. I've broadened a little bit the information that we're requesting of the applicant for projected tax and other applicable financial implications to the township. And this is intentionally broad because we don't necessarily know, depending on the use, what some of these things are going to do. And so we want to give ourselves some leeway to ask some questions there. We had talked about fuel storage tanks previously. With this iteration, I think we didn't have clear direction based on our conversation last time. There was some feedback from individuals that we shouldn't be considering fuel tanks at all, and that's where I ultimately landed on this. If you have comments about that or questions about that, I'm happy to go the other way based on your direction, but that's where I landed. We knew that item 14 here, battery energy storage systems, BESS, that was a very vague section of the ordinance before, so I knew it needed to spend some time here. We are referencing the Public Act that regulates on-site BESS within the state of Michigan, so I have aligned this section of the ordinance with the Public Act at the state level. The other standards that you see in here were developed in conjunction with the University of Michigan and Eagle, who created a guidebook for model regulations of BESS within the state. So I've chosen elements of the best practices ordinance that are not addressed elsewhere in our ordinance, and I've placed those here. So where the sections in this draft do not align identically with the state's model, it's because those other elements are found elsewhere in our ordinance. Item 15 here, emergency response details. We want to make sure that we have up-to-date current information about emergency contacts, and so we're requiring an operator to not only provide the information to the township, but have the information posted on visible signage at every site entrance. So this is an item on site that would have to get updated anytime a site manager leaves. It will be signage that gets updated, as well as the contact information provided to our ordinance officer, our zoning ordinance compliance officer at the township. We talked a little bit about the methods of making sure that our emergency responders are capable of navigating the site and being familiar with emergency procedures on site. So I'm requiring the developer to provide funding and conduct opportunities for our emergency response teams to get on site and train at least once a year. I did talk a little bit about the decommissioning plan and my concerns that it was overbearing the way that I had written it in the first draft. So while I'm still by default requiring decommissioning for the entire site, I'm also giving us the ability to have a discussion about what are reasonable things that could be reused for an additional use in the future. So that's what the elements here are for, and I'm calling out some examples: buildings, parking areas, sidewalks that we believe are feasible to be reused. We would exempt those from a security bond with the understanding that they're likely to be reused by the next occupant. Item 18 here, I'm introducing a complaint resolution program. This is something I saw in some other model ordinances that I thought was an interesting idea. I don't know that I'm sold on how well we will be able to keep up to date with compliance issues on items that are not compliance items, on items that are above and beyond what the zoning ordinance or our regulatory ordinances require, right? Where we get a complaint that the township simply can't govern based on our rules and regulations. That's the piece that I'm not quite sure what this process looks like, right? Where I want to give people an opportunity to let the township know that things are going on that may not be in compliance with the site plan. I absolutely want to know that, and I want our residents to be able to give us that outlet. I just want us to be able to filter complaints that are either above and beyond our control or are not reasonable complaints or impose requests of any operator beyond what we have jurisdiction over. So that is my one question with item 18, but I love the idea of providing that outlet for complaints and giving us basically a kickoff for complaints.
Are you thinking to have one person as a go-to person for that, or?
Yeah, we certainly have a go-to staffer within the township, right? Our zoning ordinance enforcement officer, that's his, a portion of his job is complaint resolutions. We are going to have updated contact information from the operator if this ordinance is adopted, where we know who is in charge or who is the point of contact for the operator. And I expect that those two individuals would be collaborating or would know each other. Mark today already has relationships with our larger business owners so that we can resolve some of these big things. But no, it's not necessarily who do we talk to, it's how do we make sure that we are regulating the things we can regulate.
Right.
Okay. But I still want people to be able to give feedback so that an operator knows, like, hey, we're listening, right? We see that this is going on and we're questioning whether it's right or wrong. It may be right, but there's a method to provide that feedback. Also clarifying what an amendment to a large land use plan looks like. So that's what item number 20 here is. And I'm saying that any site plan modifications for uses approved under the large land use ordinance are not considered minor. Even specifically, mechanical and electrical equipment will require an updated site plan amendment and an updated sound study, trying to address items where replacement of mechanicals, for example, a one-to-one replacement with similar specs or with the same specs because of failure or whatever the case may be, that would not be a site change. But changing in the equipment in general, upgrading it, upsizing it, things like that, that would qualify as a site plan that would come back before the Planning Commission. And then section number 3 here, I'm adding some definitions for battery energy storage systems, data processing, computer centers, and the subcategories of data processing and computer centers that I have here are aligned with some of the best practices of model ordinances that are getting adopted today. So we have accessory data centers, so these are within existing office settings today. We have small scale data centers, medium scale, and hyperscale, so these are broken out by the amount of power that they're consuming. So those are the changes this evening. I do need to get back to specifically that sensitive use separation section, and then of course we'll address anything that you direct us to this evening.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
This is the second draft, right?
This is the second draft, yes.
How many more drafts do you anticipate?
I mean, as many as we need. As many as we need. The moratorium is, I'm forgetting exact dates, but sometime middle of the summer.
Yeah.
As long as we're making meaningful progress on this, we could consider extending that if need be. But it's making meaningful progress is what we have to show.
Can you number 13, generators. Maybe it's listed somewhere else, but it permitted emergency lighting, fire suppression, and life safety systems. What about when the power just goes out in the area of southeast Michigan? Is this covered under generators, or is that a whole different thing? I mean, so they're not completely out.
The way this is written is that if we experience a regional outage or a township outage, these generators that are required by the fire department would only operate enough lighting for occupants to get out safely, or life safety suppression systems, or life safety systems in general. So water, fire suppression, things like that.
So they couldn't continue business as usual?
Correct.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way that we talked about it with the fire team is all these life safety systems would be on their own dedicated circuits. So anytime the generator kicked on, there's no way for it to handle any operational details. It's only those life safety things.
I see a question coming.
I'll hold off. Okay. See what else who's got comments?
Mr. Chuck?
Well, we've made progress, but to Brian's point, we still have a few things to look at, and the feedback's good, so keep working it.
Well,
I have one question for Brian. Brian, the one you had about replacing equipment.
Yes.
Even if it's like for like, but can we at least have it reviewed somehow, even if it's administratively, just to make sure that the sound and everything would comply, versus a like for like and you get a different model and it's twice as loud.
Yeah, so we will, let me work on what that trigger looks like.
Sure.
They're going to be, of course, in a like for like, they're required to still go through building permits or mechanical permits, electrical permits, things like that. So we just will have to figure out what that trigger looks like so that the building department flags them as needing one
Just
for
you know
one.
how it goes after 5 years.
Yep.
You're never going to find the same thing again.
Just a question. Mr. Chairman, can you just address to the audience that this is not a public hearing, that there's no interaction?
Right. Yeah.
Just so they don't get upset, it's not the time to...
Yeah, I might give them a minute, but...
Okay. Question, Brian, how often can we expect to see amendments or changes, drafts coming forward? Once a month?
Definitely once a month, yes.
Okay.
I'd like to get these out sooner, so we can have more time in advance to, just wasn't able to get them into the packet and out into the public sooner this month, and it's my intent to do that earlier before your next meeting too.
And where would the public see the drafts, or would they see the drafts as this is evolving, or is that not?
Yeah, whenever I publish them, we'll ask Jenny to put them into the next meeting agenda. Perfect. Packet online.
Thank you.
Oh, you're holding off.
Well, the only thing I have is, I mean, they're all pretty good. We need to be more defined. And then obviously I haven't had a chance to go through even the state or federal rules on this, you know? And we always defer to the state and the federal rules. And I'm sure our lawyer will keep us attuned, abreast of how fast they're changing with the data centers now. So it's got to be got to be able to change, and that doesn't mean we're going to do the final draft and everything's going to be copacetic. You know, it's a moving target.
Yeah, I want to give you as the Planning Commission and the Township Board, you know, both bodies will have an opportunity to review a special land use if it falls under this category, right? There are some pieces that are subjective and subjective by design. That's part of the special land use review in the state of Michigan, and so I know that there were some both questions and concerns and positives and negatives, both from residents as well as some of the larger landowners within the township too, about, hey, some of these items are subjective, and my answer to that is kind of yes.
That's
by design, because I want us to know or have some flexibility to say that's right, that's wrong, that's what we want, that's what we don't want. And the special land use process allows us to do that as long as we're keeping an eye on the goals of our master plan, the goals of our zoning ordinance, the health, safety, and welfare, things that zoning in the state of Michigan is allowed to govern. So that's big picture, eyes on the prize is health, safety, and welfare. But we need some subjectivity to this.
And with that said, I mean, I think we still have to have a starting point where, and correct me if I'm wrong, on that adheres around the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We've got to have a starting point. Mm-hmm. And what is required by this board, by, you know, I want to make it perfectly clear for the citizens so they know. You know, they can go right to it, and because it's obvious that, to me anyways, that they don't understand the procedure, and that's okay. You know, and they're here. I appreciate the fact that they're here and finding out the procedures. But we have to make sure that evidence is available for them. You know, so that's all I have to say.
All right. Tonight is not a public hearing, but what we'll do is I'll give you a minute. If you have a question, we're not going to answer questions. We'll write them down. I'm just asking you be constructive and don't berate people here or on the board, or try to address things that weren't addressed tonight in this draft. So if you want to come up and give very quick, but I'll have to cut you off if it's long-winded.
Okay, so this is the previous, under new business number 1. I just didn't understand Consumer Energy's Lion 29 storage field. Why are they doing that? Is it to support the subdivision going in, or?
You're talking the other project?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We're just addressing this right now.
Okay.
So if you have anything.
No, that's it.
Okay.
I'll send you some updates on the complaint resolution.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
For what it's worth, so we did have a few residents, we had a few residents submit really thoughtful and substantial comments over the past month, and I appreciate, I at least tried to let everybody know. I did read all of them. I tried to at least let people know that I've read it, incorporated it. I know that there were some requests for substantial feedback on the comments that I gave. I was not able to give big feedback back to those individuals, but I encourage you, yes, please submit more, and I'm going to try my damnedest to get feedback back to people who are taking time out of your busy days to help with this endeavor. Thank you.
I just do have one suggestion about the amendment. Since the majority of Planning Commission and Township Board members are not full-time, they do not have the opportunity to become familiar with the many, many complexities of some of these large projects. And I would like to request that there be a timeline added to that amendment where there's a minimum of 3 board meetings that they need to be presented. The first would be where the applicant makes the initial presentation. The second meeting would be to answer questions and get feedback. Once the board and commission members have had an opportunity of that month in between to review, to do their due diligence, the third meeting would focus on additional questions or discussion, and then the planning commission or the board would have the opportunity to decide if their project is ready for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was wondering if, since we're going to have lithium batteries on site, why can't the lithium batteries take care of what they want the generators to do for lighting and emergency exit signs?
All right, we'll look into that.
Because then we go back to the fuel thing. Some places are hauling in fuel trucks for temporary fuel storage without permanent fuel storage permits. And then they pull the trucks off when they get caught. Then they bring them back. There's some scamming going on some of these, around these rules. So I do think that that does need to be addressed. Will you guys allow semi-truckers to hold fuel there if you're not allowing permanent fuel storage? And why can't they just not use generators for backup power in an outage and use the lithium batteries? 4 hours, they should be able to evacuate and be safe at that point, right? That's how long the batteries will last. I think that's a valid point.
It's past that. I can address this coming from the industry. It's past that. It's part of NFPA code that no matter what, even if the building's evacuated, the fire systems still have to be maintained. They still have to run. They still have to function in case something goes wrong.
Okay, so
that's past whether we want it, whether you just have to be able to always have a backup source of power for that.
So with allowing the generators on there for that situation, and I respect what you say, I understand that. Are we opening a door for the generators then to fuel for a long-term power outage to run the center itself, the data part? Are we going to clear line, red line that option for them? Because if we're letting the generators in for lighting, isn't that kind of going to give them some legalese to maneuver for longer than a 4-hour power outage once the lithium batteries?
This is strictly for fire code.
No, I understand what you're saying, but
I think that was
but
addressed.
are they trying to backdoor more generators in for a longer power outage is my question, and will they be able to with the language that's going to be in this? Okay. That's all.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not going to say anything bad to you guys. I appreciate you guys taking the time to look into this. And Brian, thank you for the update you made to the draft. A lot of the stuff has been implemented. I think I submitted a letter. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read it. I believe it's in your packet. I know it was part of the consent agenda. So I know Brian acknowledged receiving it. I've met with a couple of the board members. So if anybody has questions or comments or would like to discuss, I'm more than happy to meet with people. But I do want to say thank you because I think it's a lot of progress in a short time, especially with spring break and holidays. So I do. I'm going to just, in the light of what you asked, I'm going to just skip just a couple points, not long. I will send a follow-up email with some of the other questions I had. The one thing I had about Article 33, though, currently it doesn't call to amend Section 3302C, which allows the whole uses not cited by name to be permitted, if clearly similar in nature and intensity. and I don't know if that's fully in there because I think Article 33 is abbreviated in there, but that was the exact provision that I think allowed us to get into the current state we're in. So the thought of the new subsection P standards could still get bypassed entirely if we don't close that loophole. So I just thought it would be better to focus on an explicit provision that states that no facility meeting the large land use threshold should be treated permitted use by right. Just so that that can't be like a, hey, well, we're similar to a greenhouse or whatever kind of thing, right? And then just bypass this whole effort. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a look at that. And then, you know, and then I just wanted to comment on the letters for the law firms that came against this draft ordinance. I just want to note that I feel like you guys are doing exactly what the board asked you to do. And I feel like those letters shouldn't have been directed to you. Those letters should have been directed to the board. I understand why they're doing what they're doing, but I feel like you guys should be confident in proceeding and doing your due diligence and investigating and looking into this. I think all of us want all applicants to be treated the same, right? So we're not asking for special treatment against any one particular developer or anything project. So just want to acknowledge that. And I do know that we don't all know all the procedures, and I accept that. I think a lot of us are learning a lot. But I would say, I think from the discussions I've had with folks, that the township is allowed to make stricter requirements above the state. And I get starting with the state as a starting point, but I think we are able to kind of look at what's best for our residents and stuff. So I just kindly ask that you continue to do that.
You can make it
yeah.
tougher, restrictive
yeah.
laws. Yeah.
But I think that, you know, them sending those letters to you guys saying that you don't have the right to look into this stuff is a bit misleading. You know, so I feel like please keep doing what you're doing. And, you know, that's all I have to say. Look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Anything to add to the draft?
I got nothing.
Excuse me, Robin Allen. Does this, is this going to allow, I guess my question is Vera said that they are going to have backup generators in their proposed data center?
I can answer that. The last submission, the submission that came in about a week ago, a little over a week ago, did not have backup generators other than the one per building that the fire marshal requested of them.
Okay. That's just for fire suppression.
Correct. Life safety, yes.
So if they come back in the future and say they want more, what's going to happen at that point?
We are making it clear in here about amendments to mechanical equipment would end up coming back as a site plan amendment to a planning commission.
Okay, come back before the planning commission.
Yes, and as a special use, amendments to a site plan end up going to the township board also. They're treated as an amendment to the special land use.
Okay, because if you go online, excuse me, if you go online, all hyperscale data centers require backup generators. Not for in case there's, you know, a loss of power, but in case the local grid can't supply the power necessary. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm asking that question.
Yep,
I'm sure they're going to come back at some point and request that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just speculation. It is not on the final site plan set.
Okay.
Thank you.
One other question. I have property right next to the bike path, just east of the bike path, just off of Milford Road, south of Milford Road. And it's up for sale now. So my question would be, and I think it's like 11 acres there, 10 or 11 acres. So Is that something that might be open for a data center in the future?
Yeah, I'm happy to look at your property with you during office hours. I don't know what your property's zoned. I don't know the size. I don't know anything. Or if it's something that you're intending to do, you can get a development team to help you vet the project. But it all depends on zoning. Right now, we're under a moratorium, so we can't consider any new large land use that's either a data center or over 100,000 square feet.
So that would fall under the moratorium. If they wanted to do that, it would be under the moratorium. Is that correct?
Again, I don't know
Yeah,
the specifics
see
about your
Brian.
property. I can't answer that
See
this
Brian
evening.
during the business hours.
I'm sorry?
See Brian or someone in the office during business hours. We
I know.
can't-
I'm listening
I
to
know.
what he has to say.
I know, but you asked it twice, so you've got your answer on that one. Thank you. All right.
No other questions? We'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have one question before we adjourn. Brian,
Yes.
Robin made a comment earlier about Coca-Cola. I know we brought that up at the last meeting. Do you know if Mark has addressed the lighting? Because there was another resident that complained that it looked like a landing strip in her house.
Yeah, I have looked in the site. I mean, it is bright. The lights are all compliant with the site plan that was compliant when it was reviewed. Our next step would be to talk with the operator and see what they're willing to minimize in terms of on-site lighting.
And what about the landscaping?
The landscaping, there was a request in the very end of fall. It was winter. I'm going to call it what it is. It was like early December for a landscape inspection to make sure that they were compliant, which I refuse to do until we get to leaf out and I can see what's living and dead.
Okay.
So I have not been out to check compliance, but we'll do so, and I can pay attention to the west side specifically.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Brian. Carl.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support. Motion and support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Arr, matey.
Very good. Thank you.